My name is Greg Bogosian, and I love everything about New England. Each week, I travel the region with my film crew searching for adventure. And along the way, I visit the places and the people that make New England extraordinary. This is New England like you've never seen it before. This is the New England Traveler. In making this show, I travel all over New England. But today, I don't have to go too far. From my hometown of Beverly, it's a short drive in the Subaru to Salem, Massachusetts. Sitting on the coast in Essex County, Salem is a bedrock of historical events and is considered one of the most significant seaports in Puritan American history. Today, I'm making it my job to explore the best places to stay, play, and eat while in town. But I also want to learn about the history that put Salem on the map. In order to do that, I'm traveling first to the town right next door, formerly known as Salem Village, Danvers, Massachusetts, and I'm meeting up with the town historian Richard Trask at the Rebecca Nurse Homestead. I was on my way to Salem, and I had to stop to talk to Richard Trask. Richard, thank you for coming on the program.
You're welcome. It's nice to see you, nephew.
Yes, Richard is my uncle. I can tell you that of all the famous uncles through history, he is at the top of the list. We are doing an episode on Salem, Massachusetts, and you can't talk about Salem without talking about the witchcraft trials in particular. You happen to be an authority on that, but we're not in Salem right now. So tell me a little bit about where we are, what we're doing, and why we're here.
Yep. Well, we're actually in Danvers at the Rebecca Nurse Homestead. And although most people don't know this, Salem was not where the witchcraft began. It was Salem Village. Present-day Danvers was Salem Village back in the 17th century. And this is where most of the witchcraft began.
Well, I grew up in Beverly, Massachusetts, right next to Salem and right next to Danvers, and I have the privilege of being educated about this through middle school and high school. A lot of people don't. So tell me about the relationship between Danvers and Salem and how the fact that Danvers was formerly known as Salem Village.
Well, Salem Town was founded in the 1620s, 1630s, and a lot of people didn't want to be fishermen or coastal people. They wanted to be farmers, so they came inland. And inland was the area that they finally called Salem Village. During the witchcraft era, a lot of the villages wanted to be an independent town, and that didn't happen until the 1750s. The town of Danvers finally was established. We have no idea where that name came from, but we were very pleased to get rid of the name Salem Village because that connoted some terrible things that happened back in 1692.
Salem, Massachusetts definitely gets most of the attention when it comes to revisiting the events of 1692 and the witchcraft era. Places like the Salem Witch Museum, the Salem Witch House, and other modern-day attractions serve as powerful reminders of a sobering time in American history while educating and entertaining the public at the same time. But it was here in Danvers, settled in the late 1630s by a group of farmers as Salem Village, where many of the historical events of the time occurred. That's ironic that Danvers would want to get rid of that name because now it is such a profitable business for the city of Salem. The hotels, restaurants, attractions, some of them authentic, some of them not so.
You know, Salem today is like the Disneyland of witchcraft, and we like to think of ourselves here in Danvers as the Smithsonian of witchcraft. What you have to do is you have to go back to 1692 and see the differences between the two communities. The witchcraft began in the minister's parsonage. Several children began going into all sorts of maladies which were very, very strange. They indicated that witches were hurting them. And the 500 people who lived in Salem Village became intimately affected by the witchcraft. They either had accusers or accused living in the family, or sometimes both. Salem Town was affected by the witchcraft, but not as intimately as the village was. And for generations, people in Salem Village and Danvers just didn't, in polite society, want to talk about witchcraft.
You recently took me to the excavation site. When was that discovered?
1970.
1970.
When we discovered it, I went to the person who owned this property and asked them, would you mind if we dig up the backyard to see if we can find the house?
Sure, bring in the backhoe, who cares?
Yeah. And we eventually found tens of thousands of artifacts. And one that I can show right now is that is a very small eel spear. Because they lived very close to the coast, they would often go in the muck and try to find eels to eat.
Eel may not be the most appetizing dish these days, but all this talk of food still has me hungry. A little later on, I'm going to be heading over to 62 Restaurant and Wine Bar on Pickering Wharf to to sample some of Chef Tony Betancourt's best dishes. Be sure to stick around for that. Richard Trask is an authority on the Salem Witchcraft era, and he started to put things into perspective for me by sharing some details about Danvers and its importance to the time. But now, I have to find a place to stay for the night. Salem is one of those iconic places like Kennebunkport and Martha's Vineyard that has it all. Great restaurants, attractions, and thanks to the Salem Waterfront Hotel, amazing places to stay. So, I'm heading there now to meet owner Michael Rocket and see if I can get a room. Michael, thanks for joining me on my show today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
So tell me about the Salem Waterfront Hotel.
We actually opened in October of 2004. It was a mad rush the last couple of weeks. October really supports a lot of people in Salem. It's our biggest month of the year, obviously. We had to get the season in.
I was surprised I could get a room here.
I guess you knew somebody.
Now, with your background, were you involved in the design of the hotel and how it all came together? Were you supervising that construction at all?
I actually built the building. I was
Really?
actually, yeah, physically in charge. There were a few days where I was out here actually slugging some concrete. Intimately involved in the construction, design. You know, everyone in the family really had their piece. My father was really the background, and he was the reason why we built it.
You grew up in the area. You grew up in Marblehead, right?
My grandparents lived down the street. I used to actually ride my bike by here all the time. Parents at the Willows, back when they had arcade rides and everything.
Right.
So,
Well, why do they not have those arcade rides anymore? It's like I used to love going to Salem Willows as a kid.
I miss the Dodgems.
Those were the best. Dodgers, they had the roller coaster out there.
Tilt-a-whirl.
Tilt-a-whirl, right next to the roller coaster.
It would be great if they brought it back. The kids would probably love it. I think they still might have a skee ball.
Yes, they're never going to get rid of skee ball. And I heard that they have the best popcorn in the world in Salem Willows.
Hobbs is the best. People come here, they literally fly down there. So I don't know how many different types, but everyone loves it. And saltwater taffy as well.
Love saltwater taffy, cotton candy. Come on, how can you go wrong? Mike and I were joking around about it, but seriously, folks, if you grew up on the North Shore of Boston, Salem Willows was the place to be as a kid. It was that waterfront mini amusement park where parents would take their kids to relax, have a picnic, and enjoy the cool ocean breeze. There's a Midway arcade, the best popcorn and ice cream on earth, and even Zoltan the fortune teller. Count Basie and Duke Ellington even played here. Did you ever think you were, when you're driving your bike around here, that you were going to own a hotel on this property someday?
No, this was developed in the late 70s. It was Pickering Oil. I think everybody rode by it, never even noticed it. No one ever imagined us being in the hospitality business because hotel is completely different than real estate. It's a fun business. It's a lot of work.
Tell me why you chose Salem to build this property.
When we took over Pickering Wharf, it was great when it was first built in the late 70s, and it just kind of petered away. And Salem was actually dying for a hotel. Way back in the 90s, they were doing studies, and they were bringing in 4,000 or 5,000 people, and there was nowhere for them to stay. So at that point, staying 3 days meant more income and more spin-off income. So we looked at it originally to put a small hotel in, then as we started looking at it, it just made more sense to build more rooms, Now that's why we want to build the second phase, because Salem is a booming city.
Michael's right. Salem is a booming city, and the hotel's location can't be beat, right on the water at Pickering Wharf. The Salem Waterfront Hotel is so close to Boston. It's a great home base for a trip into Fenway Park to catch a Sox game, or to the Garden to watch the Bruins or the Celtics. This hotel stands as, I think, the modern version of the classic hotel in Salem. The Hawthorne down the street, a couple of other B&Bs in town, but this is the biggest, and quite honestly, in my opinion, staying here, the most luxurious. The rooms are beautiful. They're almost like mini suites, even the small rooms.
And that's what we wanted to do. We wanted to really make it so that the guest experience in the room was a great experience, from the mattress to the pillows. We wanted the furniture to be very residential. The Hawthorne I love, I have to tell you. The building, the exterior of the building is beautiful. I think that we actually help each other, and I'm hoping with the second phase we'll be able to work together to bring bigger conventions in that we can sort of steal from Boston and add to the economy in Salem. So that's what I'm hoping for.
Well, thanks, Michael. I really appreciate your time.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
It's been great meeting you. Now, thanks to my friend Mike Rocket, I have a place to stay for the night, and it's time to start thinking about dinner. Mike mentioned he knows a great guy named Antonio Betancourt, who owns 62 Restaurant and Wine Bar right around the corner from the hotel on Pickering Wharf. Mike was right. It's good to know people. Now, based on all these facts, where do you think I'll be eating dinner? Michael Rocket has built a beautiful hotel here in Salem, Massachusetts. The service and food are impeccable, and the rooms rival the finest five-star hotels. It was fun reminiscing with Mike about growing up on the North Shore. I'll definitely be going back. But now, my crew and I are getting hungry. There's really nothing like exploring something new, and tonight I get to do that. And we're heading to 62 Restaurant and Wine Bar. Gonna meet Chef Tony Betancourt. Gonna do a little cooking, a little eating, and see where it takes us. Hey, Tony.
Hey, Greg.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Get my reservation?
Sure do. Table's right this way.
All right, let's eat. Okay, when Tony invited me to dinner, I didn't realize I was going to have to be cooking my own meal. So what's up with that, Tony?
Well, sorry to tell you, Greg. You have to earn your meal here at 62.
All right, let's do it.
We're going to make one of our appetizers here. It's braised veal short ribs with polenta fries. Why don't you grab that oil right there?
This right here?
Just put a little bit in that saute pan.
Or you say when?
A little bit more. There you go. That's good.
All right.
So now we're going to take the veal short ribs and just brown them lightly in the saute pan.
Excellent.
So we're going to be braising these in a combination of orange juice and balsamic vinegar.
Yum.
So they're going to cook for a couple of hours until they're meltingly tender.
Okay.
So right now, though, to really add a lot more flavor to that braising liquid, we're going to brown the meat.
Right.
Should just take a couple of minutes or so. We're going to take a look there. Yeah, we've got a pretty good amount of color on them. Now we'll add the components of the braising liquid.
Okay. Got the balsamic right here?
Yeah, so you can pour a little bit right in there. Don't be afraid. I know you want to cook. There you go. That's good right there. So we're going to add equal parts of balsamic vinegar and orange juice. Okay. Chicken stock. We have some thyme.
I got plenty of time.
That's terrible. I'll stick to the jokes and the cooking. Now we're just going to pop this into the oven for a couple of hours.
Got a lot going on in there.
Didn't expect that to be in there. Now these are a couple of veal short ribs that I made in advance. So we're going to assemble the dish now, the veal short ribs. So here we have a little bit of arugula.
Love the arugula.
A little black truffle vinaigrette right there.
Nice.
And some pickled red onions. This gives it a nice little bit of acid.
So this is how it's served?
This is exactly how
Right
it's
on the wooden
served.
board? I
Yeah,
thought this
right
was a
on
cutting
it.
board.
Here we have the polenta fritti. These are basically polenta fries. We're just going to put them on the plate like that.
It already looks too good to eat.
You're going to want to eat this one for
I
sure.
already
Don't
wanna
worry.
eat
Here are the braised veal short ribs, the crispy polenta.
It's already falling off the bone. Look, you can see
Already,
that.
for sure. Yeah, that's the benefit of braising. This is where you come into play. Now you're cooking.
All right, this is my big moment.
This is your big chance. Don't screw it up. A little sea salt on each one like that.
Boom, boom,
and then,
boom.
yeah, right on there.
Okay.
No, that's good. Maybe you should stick to TV. Right, there you go. Veal short ribs with polenta fritti.
Can we eat this now?
Yeah, you can definitely eat it. You earned it.
My crew is eyeing it, but no, it's mine. Sorry.
You can tell by now that Tony loves to cook and joke around, but it's his passion for food and making people happy that shows in every aspect of 62 Restaurant and Wine Bar, located right in the heart of Salem on Pickering Wharf.
Okay, Tony, so we're finally just about ready to sit down and eat this beautiful appetizer that we prepared.
Okay.
When I say we, I mean you.
Yeah.
But first, I have a couple questions for you, if you don't mind. Tell me a little bit about you and how you get started in this business.
Just kind of cooked with my mother my entire life, and then when I got into my mid-20s, realized that I really loved it, and I figured why not pursue it as a career.
A lot of the recipes that you've come up with for your menu, do they come from your mom's recipes?
They're not necessarily recipes of hers, but really her style of cooking. She was that mom that cooked every single night. So I really got that habit from her, making food taste really bold. We're Brazilian, so there's always a lot of layers of flavor. It wasn't basic American food. While they're not necessarily her recipes, definitely a lot of inspiration from her.
Tell me about food, wine pairing, and why you opened this particular type of restaurant.
First off, for me, food and wine pairings, I think you should definitely drink what you like. When I make food, I try to have the food be pretty balanced. Like today we made short ribs. So we have the braised veal, a lighter meat. So we could easily have opened a white wine with this. But the fact that the meat was braised with balsamic vinegar, it has the polenta and the black truffle, it equally matches with a red wine.
What is your most favorite thing about living in New England and being here?
Being in New England, I love the seasonality. Every 3 or 4 months, it's like a totally different ball game. In the fall, there are pumpkins, chestnuts, Brussels sprouts, and in the winter, root vegetables, heartier meals. In the spring, it starts all over again. Being near the coast, I wouldn't trade that for anything. So as a chef and as a cook, more importantly, it's super exciting. There's never a shortage of ingredients. The menu can be completely different, and the playlist is completely different.
Today, you talk about the hearty foods. It's been raining all day on us. We're gonna have something a little hearty.
Yeah, why don't we dig in before it gets cold?
Yeah, you wanna serve?
Sure.
That is good.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
You're welcome. I'm definitely going to be coming back. I don't know that I'm going to be invited back into the kitchen, but
You're welcome back anytime in the dining room.
cheers, Tony.
Cheers, Greg.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Try to take those speed bumps a little slower. What do I get to do? You're doing all the cooking. Braised, glazed. Oh my gosh, I already forget. Whatever.
Tony Betancourt brings Brazilian flair to his menu at 62 Restaurant and Wine Bar. He takes incredible pride in preparing the finest food with the best locally sourced ingredients. Next time your travels find you in Salem, be sure to stop by 62 and try the veal short ribs. It's lights out. In Salem, there is no shortage of things to do and places to eat. But another hot spot you have to check out is also right on Pickering Wharf.
Hi, I'm George Carey. Welcome to Finn's.
Putting a modern spin on New England standards, Finn's has made a name for itself with its menu of fresh, high-quality seafood and well-chosen wine list. Yellowfin tuna tartare, shrimp cocktail, grilled swordfish, seared yellowfin tuna, crab martinis, and of course, lobster. They all make up a menu that gives suburban Finns a big city feel, but owner George Carey keeps prices moderate given the attention to detail and cool creativity. Surrounded on three sides by windows overlooking Salem Harbor, the restaurant offers guests lively waterfront scenery and a comfortable open interior. In warmer months, you will definitely want to find yourself sipping colorful martinis out on the patio. And in those cold New England months, you will love slurping down wasabi-stoldy oysters by the fireplace.
If you're searching for the best seafood in New England, I welcome you to join us at Finn's.
Come to Salem for the history and stay for the food at Finn's. Now it's about time I get back to Danvers and my talk with Richard Trask.
So tell me about the other buildings on the property here, the Rebecca Nurse Homestead.
We got about 22 acres, which is pretty unusual to have that much open space.
You could almost have your own Danvers Disneyland here.
You could, yeah, if you wanted to. We have the nurse homestead itself. We've got the barn. We also have a reproduction of the 1672 meeting house because there's not an original first period meeting house that exists. I did the research and we tried to do it as authentically as possible.
The property has been the setting for many historical television and film productions, including the 1984 PBS miniseries Three Sovereigns for Sarah, which starred Vanessa Redgrave.
The other thing we have, a short walk down Old Path, is the Nurse family burial ground. When the so-called witches were found guilty and executed, they weren't allowed to be given Christian burials. They were just thrown in crevices near the place of execution. Several of the families stole the bodies and brought them back to their own homesteads for secret burial. One was Rebecca Nurse. We don't know where she is, but we believe that she was actually buried there.
She's somewhere out there.
Yep, and in the 1890s, they built this memorial for her. But then we have an interesting thing that happened back in 1992. Another one of the families that stole the body of one of the executed witches was George Jacobs. Long story short, I had custody of those bones, and we thought it was time to try to put them to rest. A lot of people cooperated and kind of did fake certificates so that we could do it.
You faked his death.
No, his death was real. We faked the death certificate.
Danvers is home to many incredible historical sites, including the Paris Excavation Site and the Salem Witchcraft Victims Memorial.
So the other place you took me recently was the Witchcraft Victims Memorial. Can you tell me about that?
We thought it was time to actually do a memorial which had never been done before. We designed a memorial which has a lot of symbolism that Puritans would have understood as a remembrance of the two important things that you get out of this whole witchcraft tragedy. One that I've already spoken to is the integrity of the individual, that an individual can make a difference in history and be remembered because of the heroics he or she did. The other thing is, we tend to think that witchcraft was a silly thing. We would never make mistakes like that. But in fact, witch hunts are always around. We have to confront them in our own time, just as they did then. What the memorial was trying to do is show that in our own time, we have to confront our witch hunts with bravery and integrity as those individuals did who were executed back in 1692.
My uncle Richard Trask, thank you very much for coming on the show with me. I appreciate you
It was a
revisiting history with me. Thanks a lot.
And remember it.
Yeah, I'm gonna try.
Okay.
Salem, Massachusetts is known around the world for an infamous part of American history, Today, I met up with my own uncle, Richard Trask, who reminded me that it was the town of Danvers right next door where most of the events of the Salem Witchcraft era took place. It was quite a history lesson. Then I drove into Salem to check into the Salem Waterfront Hotel and Suites, where I met the hotel's owner, Michael Rocket, who built the luxurious hotel on Pickering Wharf. Tony Betancourt rounded off my trip with a dinner invitation to his 62 restaurant and wine bar. Tony had me cooking alongside him before we got to enjoy a great meal with an awesome bottle of wine. I hope you enjoyed this trip to Salem and Danvers, Massachusetts. I'm Greg Bogosian. I'll see you next time on the New England Traveler.